We at the CPR Worldwide Media Network, your constitutional patriot radio station, would like to take a moment to reach out to a portion of our listening audience. To the NSA, the mainstream media, to liberals masquerading as conservatives who would like to see us off the air, and to those who are spinning their wheels trying to take us down, we have a special message just for you. At the CPR Worldwide Media Network, we're happy to be your 24/7, 365 obsession because, while you have your little panties in a wad, we're speaking truth to power, telling real conservatives what you don't want them to hear, the truth. And we're not gonna stop. Now then, back under your collective bridges with the rest of your fellow trolls, and oh yes, thanks for listening to CPR.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Welcome to Right Side Patriots on the CPR Media Network.
We the people.
Greg, give me the number fast.
And good afternoon. We are on the air, Right Side Patriots. It's great to have everybody here. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot, along with Diane Sorey from the Patriot Factor. And Diane, how are you this afternoon?
I'm really good. Little glitches here in the beginning, but we've got it set up now.
Well, we have got one heck of a show going on for you folks today, and a little bit later in the show, we are going to welcome none other than Walid Shoebat to the show. But instead of our quick hitters, Diane, we have got a very special guest right at the top of the show, and that is our very good friend, Pastor Manning. Pastor Manning, how are you this afternoon, sir?
I'm just fine, Craig, and it's a real joy to be on the broadcast with you again today.
Well, it's always an honor to have you, sir, and we're also joined by another great friend of Right Side Patriots, Wild Bill for America, Bill Finley. Bill, how are you?
Hey, hello, everybody. Good to be back on.
Hey, partner, how you doing?
Just fine, Diane. Pastor Manning, good to hear from you again, sir.
It's good to hear you as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're talking right now about and we were just barely brushing up against this right before we went on the air today, about the huge rally coming up in July. And Pastor Manning, we are exactly 1 month away from the main event on July 4th.
Actually, it's 29 days and a wake up.
Well, now we're all going to be there. Pastor Manning is putting this great event on in Gettysburg. Diane and I are going to be there. We're going to be broadcasting live. Wild Bill's going to be there. He's going to be one of the featured speakers. And Pastor Manning, let's just remind everybody why this event is taking place to begin with.
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that at the top of that answer is we've got racism in America and it's increasing. It's dividing our opportunities to be a great nation, and a large number of people are suffering greatly as a result of it, but also a large number of people are making millions and millions and millions of dollars as a result of using racism as a cottage industry, become extremely wealthy and powerful people, not selling automobiles, not manufacturing washing machines, but just simply peddling racism and pitting people against one another. I mean, it's like the big Don King fight promotion thing. You know, Don King, the fight promoter, stirring people up against one another. Well, we've got that going on, Craig, in America, and people are suffering, and America is suffering as a result of that. So that needs to stop. And I'm convinced that what's going to happen in Gettysburg is going to identify these people, and we're going to be able to put a major dent in racism. Then beyond that, we're going to Gettysburg, which is a very sacred place. You know, Arlington Cemetery, Craig, is sacred. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
It's a place. But I got to tell you, high up on the list, number 2 is Gettysburg. That's also a very sacred place. And it has not been used for the unity of our nation, I think, as it ought and should be. And God has allowed us to go there. And we've got people like Wild Bill that's going to be there, and a host of other people that's going to be speaking, black and white speakers. And so that's just a little bit of what's going on, Craig, in terms of what we're going to be doing. A month from now, we're going to be standing here together. Yes, I can do that right now. A month from today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a shame. It's beyond a shame. It's a crime that our nation's racial wounds were starting to heal before this man became president. And he has ripped open the scars of old hatreds that we really were moving away from, and he has brought them back tenfold. And we need to stop this. Black and white hands have to join together and show we are one. We are Americans. We are not white Americans or black Americans. We are Americans.
Well, and I know Wild Bill has 3 colors in mind as to the types of Americans we are, and that's red, white, and blue.
That's right. With a little bit of green thrown in there, too. I do like getting a check.
Bill, you're going to be there. You're going to be speaking to the crowd there that assembles for this great rally. And I got to tell you, you are putting out videos at a remarkable rate right now. I've seen more videos coming from you lately than I've seen in a long time.
Well, I've had a lot of encouragement lately, and Dr. Manning is one of the most encouraging Americans I know today. Let me tell you, thanks to his work and putting together this Gettysburg thing, Americans from sea to shining sea are breathing a great sigh of relief. We can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we're finally going to tackle the artificial manufactured racism that has kept people divided and at each other's throats. And it's about time.
You know, Pastor Manning, I've got to ask you this. You know, doing an event like this, something of this size and this scope, is not an inexpensive endeavor. And where can people send donations if they want to get in on this, if they want to help put this on? And folks, you don't even have to be coming to send a donation. That's the nice thing, because your support is going to go so far to help us reunite this country, to heal old wounds that Diane was talking about and Pastor Manning have been talking about. But where can people go if they want to get not only more information, but also send in a donation?
Well, I want to address that. I want to speak to what Diane said earlier regarding racism was dying in America. It was on its deathbed, and it had been given its last rites. And Obama came and resurrected it. And like the scripture says about once a man's house is clean of demons, the demon goes out. If that man doesn't guard himself, the demon will go out and get 7 more demons worse than himself and come back, and it happened to me. And that's exactly what has happened since Obama. Our nation has been ripped apart, not just racially, but economically as well. There's a lot of economic reasons going. So that's just one thing. I wanted to say amen to that. But the other item is, if people want to give, they can go to our website, Craig, at atlah, that's atlah.org, and there's a PayPal button, and there's also information about mailing. If they want to snail mail, they can do that, or they can call our phone number, which is also at that site, but the number is 877-777-0734, and make a gift donation on the bank card. But we're looking forward to having a great time there in Gettysburg, and we appreciate anyone giving any gift. And you're right, we've got people coming from sea to shining sea at this event, and we're just excited about it.
Well, Greg, Pastor Manning, I have a question from one of our listeners.
Right.
They're asking, where is your Gettysburg information page per se? Do you have one on Facebook, or is it strictly the web page that you just gave?
We have a Facebook page. Yes, we do. And we have our website also for information about Gettysburg. And that information is very fluid. Our speakers list, we're just going to go up today with the full speakers list. That we have 12 speakers so far. That's going to go up, but it's very fluid. But yes, we do have a site at our Facebook page and our website.
Well, now, I was going to say I could get up there and speak a little bit, but I'm not sure I want to be number 13. You know?
Hey, wait a minute. Do I get to introduce Bill again and screw up like I did at the other one?
Oh, no.
Well, I don't know if you want to, if that's a serious request, I might want to entertain it. I tell you, we're going to have a wreath laying ceremony as well. We're going to have a big wreath like they do at Arlington Cemetery.
Cemetery.
Yeah, same thing. And we're going to lay a wreath in honor of the dead who died there on that day at that site. And we're going to have a color guard with military types there. And I don't know if either one of you have been in the military.
No.
But
my father was, but not me.
Well, and Bill was in the military.
Bill, were you in the military, Bill? If so,
yes, sir. I was a Navy corpsman. I was stationed with the Marines.
And you could participate with that as well, because we want servicemen to be there to consecrate the wreath laying ceremony. So certainly you can take part in that, in addition to being one of the featured speakers at the event. But if someone wants to introduce you, like Diane or Craig, that might be possible. But I got to tell you, with 12 speakers and we only have 4 hours for the ceremony, it's going to be very tight.
It is. It is going to be tight. But
you know how to go.
Who are some of the other speakers besides Bill?
Well, we've got Clarence Mason, who is the author of It's Okay to Leave the Plantation and If Marriage is Just for White People. We've got Ron Edwards, who is a syndicated broadcaster. We've got Michael Massey, who was a head of a conservative think tank in Washington, D.C. for a good number of years and appeared on a number of conservative programs. We got Derek Grayson, U.S. Senate candidate from state of Georgia. We got Brandy Wilson, who is an interracial couple, a black and white couple married together, going to get up and they're going to do a thing. We've got Mickey Booth is going to be speaking as well from down in Oklahoma. Dr. Walid Drake has been assisting me with this process. He's going to be a part of the speaking roster and also the matter of the wreath laying. And we've got Dr. Lau Ripaki, who is an intelligence officer who has been with me since the CIA Columbia Obama Sedition and Treason trial. He's trained in intelligence and military understanding. We got Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer is going to be speaking as well. Michael Master and Rudy Davis as well are going to be speaking at that event. I think that covers most of the people. And we're waiting on a word from Colonel Riley. And he's been sort of out of the loop a little for the last couple of days. But I've got a couple of people trying to see what his participation will be.
Well, now, that's a great lineup, and I just got to tell you that, there's going to be so many people there. Now, do you have anybody there that's going to do sign language? Because I understand the guy that did it at the Mandela funeral is available. Nobody has contacted him.
Oh, my God.
The guy apparently has got a lot of free time on his hands. So I wanted to throw that out there. I'm trying to help. I wanted to make that suggestion. So
well, we appreciate your help. And quite a suggestion it is. You have a person in our church who's been here for about 10, 15 years, who is an excellent sign person, and she was going to be there. We are working on getting a Christian rock band out of Rochester, New York to come down. We're working on a bus out of Rochester. And we also got our own musical team here at the church, which is an extraordinary group of people, some of the most talented musical people you're ever going to see anywhere. They're going to be performing. And then there's going to be a barbecue that's going to happen at a recreational park, not too many blocks away from the site of where we are. And remind me, Craig, to talk about the entrance to the park there as well. But we're going to have a barbecue, and there's a place for the kids to play on the swings and playground, and there's an amphitheater there, and several other things. And a few people have asked me about worship on Saturday morning at the amphitheater or at some hotel, and I haven't put all that together yet. I've just been able to solidify the financial structure that we needed to be able to secure the buses. We want to have 15 buses rolling out of New York City, out of Harlem alone.
Wow.
And 5 buses rolling out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then, of course, there are other buses coming as well. We're checking on a bus out of Rochester, one out of Atlanta, as we talked around the Harrington. And then, of course, Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer is bringing 2 buses out of Ohio. And then people are just coming in general. And we have been able to solidify our financial obligation as far as the buses were concerned. And we did not make any further plans regarding worship on the 5th. But we may make an announcement about that within the next few days.
You've still got 29 days and a wake up to get that done. And I know as busy as Pastor Manning is and as hard as he works, that's going to happen. And folks, this is a family event. Bring the kids, bring everybody. This is going to be great. Even though Wild Bill is going to talk, it's still a family event. And now, Bill, I know there's so much that can happen between now and the 4th of July, but have you started to formulate what you're going to talk about at this event yet?
Well, what has been on the back of my mind lately is that we are seeing the storm cloud persecution forming over the USA, and Christians who are willing to take a stand for God and country are going to be facing some tests in the very near future. And I intend to challenge the audience to find their courage and be prepared to take a stand.
Great.
I think that's going to be not only inspirational but motivational as well. Now, Diane and I, we have talked a lot about the event coming up and how excited we are. But one of the things that Diane and I have not talked about, and we talk, trust me, folks, every single day of the week. As we're putting together our articles and doing what we do. But so I'm just going to throw this out there live on the air right now for Diane. What is it, Diane, that you're looking forward to most about being in Gettysburg for the 4th of July?
Well, hard to believe, coming from upstate New York, I've never been to Gettysburg. I've never had really the experience of experiencing basically all that went on there. So I'm actually looking forward to being at a place of our nation's history. It's a very sad history on that field, but it's an important part of America and who we are today. And I'm also looking forward to, folks, you're going to laugh about this, finally meeting face to face my right side radio partner.
Diane
We Skype all day long, but it's not the same as actually meeting face to face.
We have never met, and I've never met Bill in person, and I've never met Pastor Manning. I'm looking forward, not only to meeting all of you folks that are on this show right now, but I'm also looking forward to meeting our listeners. And I know we're going to have a ton of CPR listeners and Right Side Patriot listeners that are going to be there. But I got to tell you, one of the things that I really want to do while I'm there, and I might have to get up in the middle of the night to make this happen, but I want to spend some time just walking through Gettysburg alone. I just want to soak it in. I want to read some of the names on some of the tombstones there, and I just want to have that alone time, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes, where I'm just absorbing what took place on that site and why, because that's really what this rally is about, is why they had a battle there to begin with. This was a battle not to divide the country, but to unify the country. This was a battle that led to one of the greatest acts in our nation's history, and that was the Emancipation Proclamation. And there are people there, good people, that died on both sides of that fight. And I just want to take the time while I'm there to be alone for even just a few minutes to really feel what that site is about. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most. And Pastor Manning, what is it that you're looking forward to the most in this event that you're putting on?
Well, a couple of things. One is that because we got everybody speaking here, I want to address that, but I also want to address something you said earlier. This is a family event. Please bring the children. They need to be a part of this process. And then while Bill has stated is perhaps the primary reason why a lot of what's happening in America is happening, and that is a challenge to the church. The church has fallen down on its responsibility, and they need to be awakened to the fact that they have dropped the ball. They are no longer honoring and representing Jesus and thusly strengthening this nation the way it needs to be strengthened. And the church has just gone sweet water. I mean, they're just gone sugar water, and they're not about the strength. And so that's the primary reason why we're in such struggles here. And if we don't get the church together and pulpits back preaching the word of God, as Bill has stated, while Bill has stated, it's going to be impossible to solve anything else. Having said that, what you were saying, Craig, about the sacredness of the site, I want to tell you, my first time going to Gettysburg, 15 miles out from Gettysburg, I began, this is the honest to God truth as I stand before the Lord, I began to get chills just knowing I was entering that site. We were 15 miles away. Elizabeth and I were in the car driving there. And so finally, when we get there, and one of the ways to best tour, because the field is so huge, it's best to drive it rather than try to walk. And they have auto tours. But when you see those statues, you see those bronze or iron statues of what appears to be a 17-year-old boy with a rifle and a bayonet, and they've got these statues all over the place, and they got these huge monuments with the names of soldiers. They've got how many came from Arkansas, how many from Georgia, how many from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania, and you see some of the sites and the cannons and where the battles were fought. And you know that ground is soaked with the blood of over 50,000 young men that died that day. It is powerful. I got to tell you, I haven't heard anybody who's been there who has not been greatly moved by that field.
Well, one thing I'd like to say that Pastor Manning brought up, and it's very important, he said, bring your children. Make it a family event. And that's so important because remember, when our children come into this world, they're coming as a blank slate. They don't know prejudice. They don't know hate. It's the parents, the friends, the environment that teaches them hate. Well, let them be in an environment where we're healing that hate. Let them see that under it all, we're one people under God. Let them have fun out there. Let them see everybody getting along. Let's undo the hate that's been perpetrated on us over these 5 years to a degree never seen before. Our children deserve better. And that's one of the reasons Pastor Manning is putting on this rally.
You know, you mentioned your wife, Elizabeth, and I've just got to tell you, Pastor Manning, every time I call over there to find out if you're going to be available for the show, there is no friendlier voice on the phone than your wife, Elizabeth. She is absolutely wonderful.
No doubt about it. One of the greatest women on the planet today. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Not that you're biased in any way, but
no.
He's in a position to know.
Yeah, he is, Bill. He surely is. You know, one of the things, Diane talks about bringing the kids and everything. Let them learn some of the real history by being at one of the most historic places in all of the United States. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, we all know about the Gettysburg Address and when Abraham Lincoln went there and as president and delivered the Gettysburg Address, one of the shortest speeches delivered by any politician ever, and yet one of the most recognizable. But what a lot of people don't realize is that President Lincoln was an afterthought to that event. Initially, he wasn't even invited to come to the event.
That's right.
There was a speaker up on the stage before Lincoln took the stage that spoke nonstop for over 2 hours. And nobody remembers a word that guy said. And then Lincoln gets up there and speaks for only a couple of minutes. And we remember his speech to this day. Bring the kids, let them learn history that they won't learn in school by being right there where history was made.
That's so wonderful. You're right. Perhaps the greatest political speech in the annals of American history was made at that field, 4 minutes long in totality. I had to learn that speech when I was to pass from the 8th grade to the 9th grade amid a few others. It wasn't that difficult to learn, but I remember the love in my heart growing up in rural North Carolina and the love in the teacher's heart that taught us that speech back in the 60s when I was in high school or grade school. And and I've never forgotten that speech in terms of its power. So to think, I think you asked me a few moments ago, Craig, what was I planning on doing or having happen? I just hope that all the speakers will be able to show up and open up their hearts as I have seen them on videos and seen them in their interaction. Most I have not met personally, but people like Wild Bill, I've seen him standing there with that background and that big black hat on, and I can hear his heart speaking, and it touches me. So I pray that's what I pray will happen. The Lord only knows what I'll be able to say. I'm just going to be pretty much facilitating. But I got to tell you that back in the 60s, when my teacher told us we had to learn that speech and stand before the class and recite it, every last one of us, there was love in the hearts of my teacher for Abraham Lincoln and for that address. But in the schools today, Craig, they might they're telling what they're saying about Abraham Lincoln or about the speech today. Whatever it is, I tell you, it ain't love. It's more on the order of hate and division. So for me to have the opportunity now, after growing up in North Carolina, to lead a delegation to Gettysburg is beyond. I believe it. I know it. It's going to happen. But you got to know I'm sort of on cloud 9 about this.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are too. We're looking forward to the event more than you can even know. Diane and I will be broadcasting from Gettysburg at that event. It's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of July. And if there's any way you can make it, folks, you have got to find a way to get there and join us for this fantastic event. Some great music, a great barbecue, good friends, new friends, and history that you won't learn anywhere else. Now, we've got to let you go, Pastor Manning, because I know you're getting ready to do your own show. And we just want to thank you again for being a part of the show today. We're going to check in with you again before we get to that event. And you've got to know that even when this event is over, we're still going to be dragging you in on the air from time to time. You know that, don't you?
Oh, I want to come. I enjoy the harmony between the two of you and your voices and your candor and your expertise. So I want to be a part of that process ongoing.
Well, you're one of the best friends Right Side Patriots has, Pastor Manning, and we're going to be in touch with you again here in a couple of weeks leading up to the event. Bill, can you stay with us in the next segment?
I would be honored to stay with you.
All right, folks.
Let me just say to Wild Bill, if you need anything, please call Elizabeth, Bill, for anything you need, any organization, anything, any help, whatever. Please call Elizabeth. She's waiting for your call.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. I will do that.
Pastor Manning, thank you again for being on the show today. Folks, we got to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back talking about this entire Bo Bergdahl debacle and the series of articles that Diane and I have written and published this week. Don't go anywhere, and we've got Dr. Walid Shoebat coming up a little bit later in the show. It's going to be big, folks.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Citigold is an account from a global bank with over 200 years' experience, offering international banking expertise across over 100 markets. Your dedicated investment consultant adds a unique personal touch to your banking experience. Complimentary lifestyle offers like Marhaba service and free global money transfers help you save on time and money. At the core of Citigold is your dedicated relationship manager, personally looking after your financial needs. Be it lifestyle privileges like golf, lounge access across the Middle East, or worldwide privileges, Citigold provides you with a rewarding experience. One card is all you need for all your Citibank accounts. As a Citigold client, you benefit from our international expertise and global reach. Citigold is more than an account. It's a personal banking service offering exceptional privileges, customer service, and recognition worldwide. So wherever you are, Citigold will be with you.
These things become reality. people.
And welcome back to Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor and our very good friend, Wild Bill for America, Mr. Bill Finley is with us today, and we've got Walid Shoebat coming up. That was Ava Aston, We the People. And folks, if you haven't done it yet, you need to go to avaaston.com, AVAASTON.com, and get some of her music. She is absolutely fantastic. But Diane, we played that song today for a very good reason. You and I are sick and tired and fed up with what is going on in this country, and it is time to take this country back.
Absolutely. And while we are not advocating violence in any way, shape, or form, it is time for action. Absolute action. And to that effect, I will let Craig tell you what he and I have done.
Well, here's the deal, folks. Now, you may not be aware of it. Diane and I have done a 4-part series on this whole Bo Bergdahl fiasco. And it's all up. It's on thepatriotfactor.blogspot.com. It's also on my website, thenationalpatriot.com. If you haven't read all 4 articles, you need to go in there and you need to do that. And we're going to talk about that in depth as we go through the rest of this show today. But tomorrow, I have written an article. My hair was on fire yesterday. And I have written an article, and I'm going to publish it tomorrow. And I am directly calling for the impeachment and the arrestment of Barack Hussein Obama. And I make no bones about it. And it's directly, and I know there's a lot of things out there that he could be impeached for and arrested for. But this article deals directly with the Bergdahl situation. And when you read it tomorrow, your hair's going to light on fire too. But we have also included something else. And Bill, we haven't even told you about this yet. So it's just going to catch you a little bit by surprise. And I think it's going to catch some of the staff and management over at CPR maybe a little bit by surprise too. But Diane, we are putting forth a petition for we the people to sign.
Yes.
And if we can get 100,000 signatures, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility at all, given the current climate and the current situation, if we can get 100,000, the White House must directly respond to our petition.
Yes. I've been working on this petition all afternoon, guys. Now, I need to tell you something. The petition is on change.org. Now, I know that is a liberal-leaning petition site. However, it is the only site that would accept our petition. None of the other internet petition sites would accept it. They kept giving us one excuse after another why it would not be taken. From the most ridiculous thing to the most absolutely ludicrous, you're advocating overthrowing of the government. No, 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 no. This is a petition strictly to remove Barack Hussein Obama on the grounds of aiding and abetting the enemy. And all the legalities are in it and in Craig's article. So people, when you see the petition originating from change.org, just know they were the only site that would accept it.
Well, and we've got Right Side Patriots on it, folks. This is our petition. This is what we're doing. Our idea here is to force the dictator and his minions to address this petition.
Exactly. And petitions do work. Sometimes people think it's just us signing our names all over the place. However, what I did with this petition is I am petitioning the Congress of the United States, yet this petition will be delivered to the one senator that we feel can get behind it and make a difference, and that is Senator Ted Cruz.
What do you think, Bill?
Oh, you're absolutely on the right path there. Ted Cruz would be the man to catch the pass and run it across the goal line.
Exactly. There are some other good senators, but none of them have that fire in the belly that Ted Cruz has. And that's what we need, folks. We need the fire in the belly of Congress. We need it of we the people. And the only way to show it and stand united in one strong voice is please sign this petition. 100,000 signatures is what we need. Right after the show, I will be activating the petition. It is in the queue right now. I will be putting it up on Facebook, all over Facebook. Craig and I will be putting it on our blogs. We will be putting it on Bill's sites.
Well,
and all the teaching sites will get it. And I will be bulking it out tonight to the roughly 15,000 TT members. This petition is going to go everywhere. Can you imagine, folks, if we can get 1 million signatures on this? This man has run amok. This latest thing, directly aiding and abetting the enemy by releasing 5 of the most vile human beings on the planet. Human beings so vile that the UN, the useless nations, is trying to get them. That shows how bad they are. And the government of Qatar is only going to have them under basically a house arrest for a year. And then they go off to do their killing again. And this man knew it. Also today is surfacing a video showing the transfer of Bo Bergdahl to the American forces. That man was in no danger of imminent death. He walked up of his own accord to the helicopter. This was a trade made in hell.
And I believe he shook hands with the Taliban as he was saying goodbye to him.
Well, and they told him, don't come back. Look, for you and me and for Diane, if the terrorists tell us don't come back, pretty good chance we're not going back. But given what we uncovered in our Connect the Dots series with Bo Bergdahl, I almost wonder if he didn't have the chance if he wouldn't go back. I mean,
Bergdahl's new mission is going to be in the United States.
I think he would. If he knew he had the option of leaving when he wanted.
Of course he had the option of leaving. He was videotaped walking around shopping in open markets during his captivity with nobody guarding him. I think Bo Bergdahl has been trained for 5 years to be a Taliban operative, and Obama just gave him a first-class ticket right to the United States where he can hook up with his Islamic father and start their own terror cell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you,
yes. And it's funny, Craig and I put the pieces together that his father is at the bottom of this. People were a little skeptical at first, but now more and more people are seeing what we put down and what some others are talking about. Yeah, his father has had Taliban connections before his son was captured.
Well, and we're going to get into a lot more of that, too, with Walid Shoebat when he comes on, because part of the research that I did for one of the segments, the 4-part segments of the articles, I found some information that Walid Shoebat had just published. I mean, just literally minutes before I found it. And looking at that and looking at his connections, knowing who his connections are, you can't discount that.
It's sickening, folks. It's sickening. The biggest hoax has been perpetrated on the American people. And when all those Facebook pages went up supporting Bo, we all joined them. I wrote op-eds on my blog to try to bring Bo home because we were given false information. Do you people realize that back in 2010, the Pentagon issued a report that Bo Bergdahl left on his own accord, an official report, and it was kept hidden from all of us. From we the people, we were lied to and we were deceived. The Pentagon declared him a deserter.
Now, let me ask you, Bill, because you're former military, why is it that none of the people that served alongside Bergdahl let loose this information until Saturday?
I think there was information out there. We knew that he had walked away on his own accord, and a lot of them are speaking up now. But as you know, under Obama as commander-in-chief, speaking your mind is a very dangerous thing. A lot of these guys in his unit are actually saying that Bergdahl defected to the Taliban, which is a much more serious offense than going AWOL. In fact, there's an article on WorldNet Daily today saying that the Army had orders to shoot Bergdahl on sight if they saw him, because they suspected that he was colluding with the enemy and setting up ambushes of American troops.
Well,
Wow.
even as
Wow.
a private, and this is what people have to remember too, Bergdahl was a private when he walked off that base in Afghanistan. He was not a sergeant, he was not a specialist, he was a private. He was actually promoted during his captivity, which also makes me ill, given the idea that the Pentagon released a document showing that he intentionally defected. He walked out. So, you have to look at those things, and it just makes your stomach turn. But, even as a private, and even though he'd only been there a short amount of time, this was a small base, and the mission was well known to everybody of every rank that was in that base. Therefore, if he walked into the hands of the Taliban, which it certainly appears that he did, we even have reports, and we included them in one of the articles this week, where the people that initially went out looking for him the morning he disappeared were told that by children that they had seen an American who was asking where he could find the Taliban. So this whole thing is just a debacle.
Exactly. But I'd like our listeners to know right now, hello NSA, we seem to be having, I don't know if Craig and Bill are noticing this, but we keep losing the connection, and it comes back in a few seconds. If we go down, and it looks like there could be a possibility, just know we know what you're doing, NSA.
Well, and we're prepared for this, folks. If for some reason we lose the connection, if some reason we're knocked off the air again today, we're going to keep on going. We're recording the show today, so no matter what, we're going to get this done. But Bill, you were in the military. Is there a kind of a code of ethics, let's say, maybe the unwritten rule, that even in the situation where a guy like Bergdahl would simply leave a note on his cot saying, "I'm leaving to find myself a better life," and they find out that he has actually been seeking out the Taliban, our enemy in a time of war, that they just don't talk about it while the guy is still missing? Is that part of the equation here?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to give the enemy information they can use, and you definitely don't want to give the enemy in the left-wing media information they can use. The military has learned to be just as distrustful of the Obama media as we have. So, yeah, there would definitely be some hush-hush going on as they tried to catch Bergdahl.
Well, and, look, we had at least 6, maybe as many as 8 people that died as a result of going out and looking for Bergdahl. And, that weighs into this situation, too. And then when you add to that this absolutely disgusting fact that these 5 terrorists have been now released from Gitmo and sent right back to where they can join the fight again. Folks, if you think the government of Qatar is going to be watching these people like a hawk, think again. One of the things we included in the articles is the fact that Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood are buddies.
Exactly.
There's no doubt that these men were turned loose to fight again, and there's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Obama knew that is exactly what was going to happen. These 5 men are now heroes in the Muslim jihad world, and you can bet that thousands of young jihadis are going to be scrambling to join their team so that they can get payback against the great Satan, the United States.
Exactly. This is going to go from a paper war of paper shuffling them out of Gitmo to a full-fledged war against our American troops. Barack Hussein Obama has now put a bullseye on every one of our men and women still in the Afghan theater. He has put a direct target on their heads. And to make it worse, by him announcing the pullout date, all they have to do is little skirmishes here and there, take out as many Americans as they can, and then overrun that country. And all the blood, all the body parts left behind by our troops will have been for naught because of one man and one man alone.
Well, and that is why we've got this article coming out tomorrow. You can find it in thenationalpatriot.com. Diane's going to have it on her blog, thepatriotfactor.blogspot.com, and we're going to include the petition. It's going to be attached to the bottom of that article. And sign it, put it on your email list, send it out on Facebook, post it, tweet it, do whatever you got to do. But we want to get a minimum of 100,000 people to sign it so that the White House and this dictator must address it.
Not only address it, maybe it'll give our gutless Congress a little poke to actually get off their butts and do what's right for we the people, instead of being so damn afraid of the race card being used against them. It's time they stop thinking about their individual selves and think about the good of the American people. We elected them. We can get rid of them just as well. And it's time they get off their butts and start working for us.
Bill, you're going to sign the petition, right?
Well, yeah, I'm going to sign it. If I say I'm a Democrat, can I sign it a whole bunch of times?
Yes, you can.
Hey, look, that's the way voting works for Democrats. I don't see why this would be any different, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Folks, this has been a really short segment on Right Side Patriots today, but there's a reason for that. We've got a great special guest coming up for you in just a few minutes, Walid Shoebat. And if there's anybody who's a better, let's say, expert on the world of Islam, on jihad, than Dr. Shoebat, I don't know, or Mr. Shoebat, I don't know who it would be. You know, Walid Shoebat used to be a jihadi. And he found Christ. He found Christianity, and it changed him completely. He is now one of the world's foremost speakers against Islamists and jihad and all this mess that's going on. And I guarantee you, he's going to give us some insight into what's going on with this Bergdahl deal that nobody has heard before. So, folks, hang with us. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, Walid Shoebat joins Right Side Patriots.
I'll go find a network won't to treat me right. Y'all can take the change and stick it out of sight. Don't tread on me. Don't you tread on me. Hey, are you ready for some good news? We're gonna take back our country. Well, it used to be easy, get a place, build a house. Now the EPA said no, that's the home of the blue mouse. Don't tread on me. Don't you tread on me. We're gonna use some common sense and we're gonna take back our country. Well, they've beaten to death that pole race horse. This politically correct thing has run its course. Don't tread on me. Don't you tread on me. Hey, are you ready for some good news? We're gonna take back our country. YouTube and Bing, lots of divorces from showing them bangs.
Why don't you mind your own business?
That's good advice.
Mind your own business.
Dad got it right.
But if you mind your business, then you won't be minding mine.
Every sign says for sale, for lease, price reduced, make an offer, please. Don't tread on me. Don't you tread on me. Hey, today we could build Boulder Dam, there'd be way too many government permit scams. Don't tread on me. Don't you tread on me. Hey, are you ready for the good news? We're gonna take back this country. Hey, Barack, pack your bags, head to Chicago. Take your teleprompter with you so you'll know where to go. So move it all over, move it all over, move it all over, move it all over, move over, little dog, cause the big dog's moving in. Hey, 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 move it on over, move it on over, slide it on over, move it on over. Hey, are you ready for some good news? Are you ready for some good news? We're gonna take back our country. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Why do cities shine so bright? It's the glow of opportunities, of ideas bouncing off one another, of countless people, every one of us, striving to succeed. Right now, in cities everywhere, ideas are being born. New thinking that will put us in awe of what people are capable of. That's what lights cities up. And helping people and their ideas to burn even brighter, so that communities, businesses, and you and I can grow. What if a bank made that its job? For more than 200 years, Citi's job has been to help empower people and business. Now, around the world, it's wherever people gather, wherever ideas come alive. It's wherever you are. The world's city.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot, along with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor, our great friend Bill Finley, Wild Bill for America. And folks, as promised, we are joined by a very special guest this afternoon. Mr. Walid Shoebat joins Right Side Patriots to talk about the Bo Bergdahl situation. Mr. Shoebat, good afternoon and welcome to Right Side Patriots.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to meet you, sir.
Honor to meet you too.
In fact, you and I have met once before at a Pamela Geller event in New York, but you would never remember me.
It's very difficult to remember faces.
Well, and I'm sure you meet a lot of people throughout any given month, not to mention over the years. But, sir, I've got to tell you, this whole thing going on right now with the Bo Bergdahl, the release of these inmates from Guantanamo Bay, this deal that was struck has me absolutely as angry as I have ever been. And as Diane and I were writing our series of articles over the last couple of days about Bo Bergdahl and his father, Bob Bergdahl, I stumbled upon some information that you had just put up online on your website regarding this. But let's get started here, if we can, with these Gitmo 5 that were released. These are the Taliban Dream Team. And we're not making this up, are we?
No, hardly. These are probably 4 of them, the most dangerous in the Taliban and the highest elites of the Taliban. So it's a major issue. Let's take a look at some of these fellows. You have Muhammad Fadl, who was one of the Taliban senior military commanders, and he also is a Taliban Army Chief of Staff of the 10th Division Commander and Deputy Secretary of Defense of the Taliban. Then you have the other, who is Khairullah Khairukhawa. I don't expect your audience to repeat those names. It's very difficult, but that's what we're here for. He's the Interior Minister of the Taliban regime, okay? Interior Minister. Not just as some small cookie here, not just some bomb maker, but major operative in the Taliban. He also was one of the most prominent of the Taliban officials since the inception of the Taliban in 1994. He is also considered the most respected and most influential in the Taliban movement. So you're talking about an Osama bin Laden here. He was detained, of course, in 2002 by the Pakistani government. Those sources come from the Middle East, of course. The other one was also Mullah Nurullah Nouri. He was responsible for the Balkh province in the north, and, your leader in the Taliban regime. And also you have Abdullah Haq Wathiq or Wasiq, Deputy Director of Intelligence. So this guy knows a lot of secrets in the Taliban regime. He is also one of the founders of the Taliban movement. Okay? So you're talking about Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and that kind of thing, if you want to take it in an Al-Qaeda scenario, since Americans know more of Al-Qaeda, since many Americans, Al-Qaeda is the major threat. But,
this is just so hideous. It's so wrong that these particular 5 would be sent back over to Qatar. Now, you're so familiar with that entire region over there. How trustworthy is the country of Qatar and their government?
Are you kidding me? Qatar and Saudi Arabia are currently go hand in hand in creating all kinds of problems. Parliament of Qatar, very Islamist, very pro-Muslim Brotherhood, very pro-Wahhabist. And Qatar has funded a lot of the Islamist movement. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are the main 2. The problems we have in Syria, Qatar is very much well involved. And so it looks like the president worked with the government of Qatar, really an enemy, to release an enemy, to regain an enemy. So he can be scot-free in America, spreading his poison too, because, of course, the Taliban, and I believe them, the Taliban stated that he converted to Islam. His name is Abdullah, and he also trained the Taliban on to perfect bomb making. So this guy, Bergdahl Jr., let's just go senior, junior, father and son.
Okay.
And it's like father and it's like son. Both act as a team, play as a team players. Of course.
Yes.
You had the Twitter sent to not just anyone. It was sent to Mr. Balkhi, who's one of the 3 most prominent Taliban spokesperson. So this is a terrorist. So he's communicating with terrorists. And he's telling him, I am still working to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child. Amen. So is he defending his son here, or is he defending the Afghan Taliban cause? Is he collaborating with Obama? Of course, we know President Obama wants to release Gitmo. He no qualms about that. He wanted to close Gitmo. There was a lot of pressure from America that will not allow him to close Gitmo, but this is the process of him closing Gitmo by making deals and by allowing clandestine pro-Taliban Americans in the military father and son working together, creating a fictitious story of saving an American patriot POW, when in fact it's an American Taliban sympathizer, sort of like Mr. What's his name, American Taliban.
Right.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Do you believe, sir, that Bo Bergdahl will now be used or has been trained to be the catalyst to wake up sleeper cells here in the United States?
Well, I mean, Americans always worry about sleeper cells everywhere. And, the sleeper cells are already here. And it's not just a wake-up call for the sleeper cells. It's a proclamation that the Islamists or the Taliban sympathizers have the White House.
Yes, they do.
This is why when he gave his little speech and he started with the Basmala. Now, to an ex-Muslim like myself, I know what the Basmala is. It is in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, announcing a victory, basically, that there's the president right by his side. And as soon as he gives the Basmala in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, the president smiles. He knows exactly what. In other words, the president is in cahoots with this man. He's in cahoots with the Taliban. He's in cahoots with the operation of Mr. Bergdahl. And, it's like if a Muslim stands in front of the Rose Garden and says, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Well, you would think this man has announced his conversion to Christianity. And he's an ex-Muslim by now. But this guy is saying, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, which means that he is Muslim, announcing this is a Muslim victory. And he has extended his beard and trimmed his mustache. Many Americans cannot tell the fundies from the regulars. I can, because the beard is elongated and the mustache is trimmed by the commandment of the Prophet of Islam. Trim the mustache and elongate the beard. And his son has also, the beard is longer than the mustache. And so this coincides with a conversion. That basically they are converted to Islam. Now, that's not to many, doesn't constitute ill intent, just converted to Islam. But once, you take a look at this guy's beard and mustache and everything else, he's not a bum, he's not a biker, he's not a Santa Claus fan. That's not why he's doing this. But when you look at the subscriptions this man has, I mean, it is, I looked at it, it terrified me, and I'm a terrorist researcher. He has a litany of very dark mind collections of terrorist favorite videos, from training how to become a Muslim jihadi, to urging the American troops to desert their units, even has subscribed to the most favorite speeches, like Sheikh Anwar al-Awlaki. Of course, we all know Awlaki. He was killed by the Americans. He was the inspiration of the Nidal Malik Hassan, the Fort Hood massacre. He was also worked in the Muslim Student Union Association in Boston. The same associate, he was the spiritual in the Muslim Student Association of Al-Hassani, who was copied on the Benghazi emails, if you recall that. What do they call those emails? The slam dunk email, I forgot the American terminology, but all this stuff was involving other people also in the office of the presidency who were working, for the Islamists.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really sure what the Farsi equivalent of "holy crap" would be, but this is just beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned.
By the way, I've just scratched the surface. I mean, the list of these dark YouTube videos, which he, by the way, it's not just like he just put them on his favorites, but he put comments on there. One of the videos was called Dua. Americans don't know what Dua means. It simply means prayer. But prayer about what? Was it pray to release his son? Hardly. The prayer says, "Oh Allah, release our prisoners, the Muslim prisoners, and send them back to our families in peace." This is prayers for the enemies.
So now wait. Let me just make sure I've got this straight and our listeners understand exactly what you're saying here. You're saying that Bo Bergdahl's father, made comments, positive comments, on those videos that pray for the return of Muslim Islamist prisoners.
Terrorists, yes, absolutely.
Terrorists.
Yes, because the rest of the video is about terrorism.
Yes. Well, Craig, that's what we touched upon in our part 4. We alluded to it in part 3. We drove it home in part 4 that Bo Bergdahl's father is, if not a Taliban sympathizer, he's part of the Taliban himself.
Yes, because if he communicates with a spokesperson, not just any spokesperson, one of the top 3 spokespersons, Balkhi, he is in communication directly with the terrorist, telling them that he's going to influence the government. He sends him a tweet, you see? So that's literally collaborating with the enemy.
That's grounds for treason. That's treason.
Absolutely. For the cause of advancing the enemy's cause, not America's cause.
Right.
He puts a comment on that very YouTube video. And this is why even, the Twitter, it was deleted. Hey, we still got the whole litany on this guy. He says, Alhamdulillahi, Ameen, Ameen, may the dua means the prayer, the same thing as the video saying, of the Ummah, the Muslim nation that is, be heard, and may Allah free my son from captivity. In other words, in addition to the deal, you're sending out, releasing terrorists, maybe you can also release my son. And
right.
Yes, and then he writes it in perfect Arabic. He spells out in perfect Arabic, in the name of Allah, most merciful, most beneficent, in thee whom I worship. It is thee whom I seek refuge. Hello, thee Allah I worship. That's clearly the man has converted to Islam. And then one of the favorite videos he has is Ismail Menk. Ismail Menk is a virulent terrorist preacher, and he was one of the favorites of, guess who? The Boston bombers, the Tsar Nayef.
Right. So basically what he's doing with all his getting on and bloviating how bad I want my son back and all this and that, he's actually practicing taqiyya to advance Islam.
Well, practicing taqiyya, it would be different because he would act as he's a Christian or an American patriot or whatever. But this guy is really not doing much taqiyya. He's really being very fervent and extremist himself in the open.
He's outward, right? He's outwardly showing it. But these past 5 years, and as you probably know, all over Facebook has been sites supporting Bo. We need to get him home. We need to get him home. His father has appeared at rallies in tears. I want my son back. All of that was a lie.
Absolutely, because once you hear the testimonies of his colleagues, it becomes very clear what's going on. It's like father, like son, cooperating together. Even on Antilius, the father says, works for Taliban. Employment, Taliban, on Antilius. If you want to examine the name, it's there. I have all the things. Now, when you look at the colleagues of the young Bergdahl, you have Matt Verkant, and I got this from CNN. They did a whole research too, in which he says, Mac Verkant says, I was pissed off, then I am even more so now with everything's going on. Bowie Bergdahl deserted during a time of war, and his fellow Americans lost their lives searching for him. And these are primary source accounts, people that were with him. It's not secondary source accounts.
No, these are people that were actually there. They were on the ground. They were part of Bo Bergdahl's unit.
That's right. They witnessed what he did. They said he shed his weapons. He left his weapons behind. Why would you go if you say, if, let's say I'm an American soldier, I really want to kill me some Taliban. I would not just leave without my weapons.
Exactly.
He shed his weapons, walked off the observation post with nothing more than a compass and knife, water, digital camera, and a diary. And then,
do you, sir, believe from everything you're saying, and Craig and I put this up as something for people to think about. But do you believe that Bob Bergdahl and Barack Hussein Obama set this whole thing up so that these 5 would be released from Gitmo, including Bo going into the army, being in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Was this a setup?
Well, we have to work on the evidence. We don't have evidence that Obama initiated this issue. But what we do have evidence is that Obama collaborated with Bergdahl. For whatever reason, we do not know. We can suspect and speculate because Obama's record shows that he's very much pro-Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt.
Right.
His family. I can go on for hours about Mr. Obama and his family and his relationships and the Wahhabist relationships and his funding and the funding for recruitment in the most virulent Wahhabi schools in Al-Qura University in Saudi Arabia. That's pretty much etched in stone. In Al Jazeera television, his cousin Musa Ismail Obama did an interview in which he talked about recruitment. So the family, most definitely the Obama family, are in the business of recruitment. That's no question. And raising funds from the U.S. to do it.
Wow.
That's beside Malik Obama, the brother. And by the way, we have to look at culture in this case, because culturally, Malik Obama is the eldest brother. Culturally, he supersedes President Obama and the family. And there's communication. They admit it. In fact, Uncle Saeed Obama himself said that every member of the Obama family is Muslim, including President Obama, that is. So,
well, I mean, look, I think that goes without saying. I mean, there's all the evidence certainly points in that direction. But folks, Walid Shoebat,
we were painted as crazies years ago when we said President Obama is very likely Muslim.
Well, I don't know where you moved to, Mr. Shoebat, but we're still painted as crazies when we say that. So
we've believed Obama was Muslim from day one, even before day one. This man never did anything to be the Christian he professes himself to be. He did everything against it. It is obvious if people would just open their eyes and see this man is Muslim.
Yes, in fact, I have for years requested anyone in many, many interviews across the country to produce to me President Obama's Christian testimony. A testimony by a Christian who was Muslim talks about why he left or defected his faith. Anywhere you can find President Obama's criticism of Islam. In fact, on the contrary, New York Times, he says the most beautiful sound he's ever heard is the call to the prayer. What's the call to the prayer? Allah is great, Allah is great. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. This is the conversion to Islam or being Muslim. Obama talks, anybody could go to YouTube and put Obama Bible, Obama Quran, and they could see what he says about the Quran. The Quran says, the Quran says, the Quran says, positive, positive, positive. The Bible says, it teaches slavery, negative, 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 positive, Quran, negative Bible, positive Quran, negative Bible. How long will the fools of the world believe that Obama is Christian? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense when you look at it that way, and when you see all the things that are happening right now. Walid Shoebat is our special guest on Right Side Patriots right now. And Mr. Shoebat, let me go back to this Twitter that Bob Bergdahl sent out and to the terrorists to whom he sent it. Now, we know that he's in communication directly with this fella, and please pronounce his name for me again. Bachai?
Balkh. Yes, Abdul Qadir Balkhi. Let's talk about Abdul Qadir Balkhi.
Yeah, tell us again, go into a little bit more detail and tell us exactly who this guy is. Because Bob Bergdahl, when he tweets, I am still working on getting prisoners released. First of all, he says prisoners, not terrorists. And the second thing is he's still working on it, which means that he and this terrorist he's tweeting have been working together for some time, correct?
Right, and that's what brings suspicion to the presidency of the United States, because he's making these while at the same time, he's basically somehow being magnetized by President Obama or He approached President Obama, and these kind of things are going back and forth. At which point he sent this, and when did President Obama first communicate with Baghdad Sunni, that is, that remains to be found out. But Abdul Qadir Balkhi wasn't contacted by Baghdad to smoke a hookah or drink Afghan tea or to compare the length of their beards. You know, he says very eloquently, I'm still working, like you mentioned, to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child. That's a threat. You know, in other words, Allah is going to make America pay for the Afghan losses in that war. So this is basically declaration of terrorism against America. Now, Abdul Qahar Balkhi is one of the three major spokesmen for the Afghan Islamic Emirate and the Islamic terrorist organization, basically the Taliban. This is the same terrorist organization and its representative that wanted the 5 terrorists that we released. So he is part of that same group of terrorists. Balkhi was the main spokesman when the U.S. embassy was attacked in Kabul. So we had a terrorist attack, and he was the main spokesperson announcing the victory or announcing the destruction of American property and killing Americans. Man. So, and then so he also, the same group that he's dealt with, sends an announcement threatening Christians to be killed. He says the Afghan Islamic Emirate will take practical measures and has already made special plans to destroy all their centers, that is Christian centers. One by one, the centers where plans are made that destroy the holy religion of Islam and Afghan culture. So he's making a threat, a terrorist threat against Christians, Christian centers, Christian missionaries, what have you, Americans, anybody who's American is a Christian the way they think. And so he's announced.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I went and I found some of the tweets that this terrorist has tweeted out from his own Twitter account, and I included them in part 4 of our series. Diane and I had written. It's in, up online. It's in our websites today. But when you read those, you see plainly that this fellow that Bergdahl was sending this tweet to is absolutely engaged, deeply engaged in wanting Americans dead.
Absolutely, because he says when he announces victories of the Taliban, one of the tweets, he says 5 American terrorists were killed when an armored vehicle was blown up at 5:30 evening in the village of Maqsood in Gilay district in Ghazni state. Now, you find the same kind of YouTube videos that this guy is talking about in Bergdahl's YouTube account. So it shows American soldiers dead, destruction of American lives, vehicles, you name it. And he's proud about it. And so he puts it and he subscribes to these terrorist activities. These are the kind of things I research when I research terrorists. I mean, it's not just one YouTube video. It's tons of YouTube videos, a litany of it. Arguments, things of that sort, teaching how intelligence, also in Pashtun, in the language of the Taliban, how to talk about weapons, how to talk about this, that. Intelligence education, and it's slow kind of teaching the lingo. So in other words, he's most likely sending it to his son. A rifle. How do you say rifle? How do you say bomb? How do you say this? How do you say that? In the Pashtun language, in the Persian language, in the Arabic language, and so he can communicate with the Taliban. So this is father and son working together in a clandestine operation to basically go to the Taliban and tell them, we're the man. I know you found your man. I'm the man who's going to get kidnapped. I'm the man who's going to release, the Gitmo terrorists. So this is, very far in design. It's preempted. It's not something that just came out of whimsical ways. They have a father who's communicating with terrorists. You have a son leaving his post, betraying his post. And in fact, one of the testimonies of the Americans that as soon as they went to look for him, IEDs began to go off because they knew that, which road they're going to go to look for him. They knew exactly the operation, how the Americans function, and Americans died and gave their lives to look for this traitor, and that's something we need to talk about. Everybody should talk about. Americans died to find pro-terrorist operative.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get into that. Can you stay with us after we take a quick 1-minute break, Mr. Shoebat?
Sure.
I have a question that I am just dying to ask you.
Our honored guest today is Walid Shoebat. I've got to say, for my money, the world's foremost expert on what we're talking about right now. And we are so lucky to have Walid Shoebat as our guest on Right Side Patriots. Folks, give us time to do just a little business. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Katy Perry is coming to town. Can we get tickets, please?
Tickets? Sure. How many?
Well, there's Hannah and Maddie and Jen and Sarah and Sarah.
Whoa, hold on. Here it comes. We can't forget about your older sister.
Thank you.
Seriously? What? I get 2 times the thank you points on each ticket. Can I come? Yeah.
The Citi Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on entertainment and dining out with no annual fee. To apply, go to Citi.com/thankyoucards.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
On Right Side Patriots, Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor, our good friend Bill Finley, and we're very honored to have with us today as our special guest, Walid Shoebat. And Mr. Shoebat, I can't tell you just how great it is to get this kind of rare insight into what is going on and what has gone on from Saturday through today. And I know Diane, I know exactly what she's going to ask, so I'm going to let her take this here because, no, seriously, this is a great question.
Okay. Over 2 years ago, Bob Bergdahl had gone out in public and said he had become disillusioned by the military's doctrine of counterinsurgency. He said it was a doctrine aimed at winning over the Afghan people by building roads, schools, and good governance, all while protecting them from insurgents. He said that American troops met with villagers during the day to gather information as to what they needed, and then he also claims that what they were really after was the whereabouts of insurgents so they can target them at night. He was very, very against targeting insurgents at night. He would speak on his different talk circuits about this. Yet, that should have raised red flags across the country, and it didn't, because the doctrine of counterinsurgency, that is Barack Hussein Obama's doctrine. The U.S. military has had their hands tied behind their back by this man. They cannot fight to win a war. They are fighting to win the hearts and minds of people who don't want their hearts and minds won. They want to be left alone. They want to maybe build up eventually into a democracy, but not a democracy as we see it. They're a different culture. They're a different kind of people. And here it is, this man is going around lecturing how bad our doctrine, if you will, of counterinsurgency is. And no one raised the red flag here. Yes, a few of us, I shouldn't say no one. The vast majority of Americans just overlooked it. This connection was made years ago that this man was not who he says he was. Why do you think he was able to pull this hoax off on the American people?
Well, there's many American in the troops, soldiers who don't like the war, and this is kind of a lot of it is normal. You find these people who just are liberal, or so he was viewed most likely like a liberal who just doesn't like the war and so on and so forth, but nobody was connecting the dots to the Islamist connection, and that was the problem. And of course, President Obama, really, as you said, he's really fighting against the Taliban and the war efforts in Afghanistan and so on and so forth. So but then you have the son. I mean, it looks like it's the father who's in charge, the father who's pushing the buttons, and it's the father who's responsible as the main operative in this case, much more so than the son. The son is simply the mule, if you will.
Yes.
The son writes an email, and he states, very similar to what you're saying. He says, the future is too good to waste on lies, and life is way too short to care for the damnation of others, as well as to spend it helping fools with their ideas that are wrong. I have seen their ideas, and I am ashamed to even be American. The horror of the self-righteous arrogance that they thrive in, it is all revolting. So that's basically shares the same anti-war sentiments as the father. And by the way, the clips that the father subscribes to of soldiers who are anti-war, who basically brainwash American troops to defect from the war. Because that's the policy of the terrorists. Is really, it's a political movement too. It's not just a war of weapons, but it's a political movement.
Right.
And that's the war of ideas, the war of what to call al-harb khid'a, that war is trickery. And so they have a political methodology, very well constructed, that they want to fight against our troops, and that's what they do. And that is conversions and things of that sort, and basically using Americans to aid and abet the terrorist infrastructure. Those are very valuable to be inside of the system, have the ear of the president, have the know-how of weapons capabilities, which the son trained the Taliban on as well. And so
right,
very
right. And Craig,
I think we may have just lost Diane there for a moment, but let me ask you this, Mr. Shoebat.
Tweets per se.
Okay, Diane, you're back.
Go ahead. No, you can bring it up. You know where I'm going with this.
Well, I was going to bring something else up altogether, but here's what I wanted to find out. Excuse me, is when Bergdahl made those comments in the Arabic language or whichever language that was in the Rose Garden on Saturday afternoon. It's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Shoebat, but it's basically the way the Taliban and terrorists and Islamists begin a victory speech.
Right.
He was claiming the White House for Islam. What effect does that have in the Islamic world when they hear that coming from the Rose Garden with Obama standing there grinning right next to him? Tell us exactly what that means in the Islamic jihadist world.
Well, it's very simple. I mean, we've seen all Al-Qaeda videos and all Taliban, Muslim Brotherhood, that the White House will become the Black House. Black House doesn't mean dark house. Black House means the flag of victory of Al-Qaeda, Taliban, which we have,
right,
the Islamic black flag, the jihad flag. And so this to them is a victory. We are in the White House. We have victoriously taken over the White House. We are speaking from the White House. We have the president in our pocket. He is one of us. He is not a traitor, as most of you think. It's elevating President Obama's image amongst the terrorists as claiming he is an operative part of the apparatus of the Islamists, because of course jihad is in three stages. You have jihad al-lisan, the speaking jihad. They have jihad al-qalam, the writing jihad. And then you have jihad al-mal, financial jihad. Then you have the actual jihad. Jihad is not only weapons and warfare. Jihad is also being an operative in speaking and in convincing and in converting, as the Muslim Brotherhood stated in their agenda, to destroy the United States from within, and by gaining sympathizers. Now, what better sympathizer can they gain than the president himself? I mean, this is absolutely treasonous, what President Obama did. They should be court-martialed for what happened.
Well, and let's look at the other side of this coin. How motivating is this in the theater of war? We still have American troops in Afghanistan, and they will be there for at least another full year and maybe almost a year and a half. But how motivating is this to the Taliban, who our troops are now facing in that theater of war? And what are the ramifications for Americans, not only in uniform, but civilian Americans as they travel worldwide?
Well, it set the precedence that terrorism works, kidnapping Americans work. This will increase tremendously kidnapping Americans. You kidnap an American, you get released a bunch of terrorists. The Israelis fought against this for a very long time. I grew up in Israel I was born there in the 60s, in 1960 in Israel, and I grew up under this terrorist apparatus, and Israelis never used to negotiate with terrorists. Why? Because they knew that this will increase terrorism. Israel is practicing the same thing as the US currently, which increases a lot of kidnapping. So, the kidnapping is going to increase. Not only that, there's a Jew, Weinstein, who's been begging the government to release him from Al-Qaeda. No one cared about the Jew. He worked for the government. He's a 73-year-old man. He's an operative of the United States, and he's a loyal American. And his cries has never been heard, but the cries of this man is heard. It's sending a message that convert to Islam, join the American military, and you'll be fine. It's also sending another message for the Americans who are disgusted. Why would they want to send their children and their sons and daughters to join the American military if the American government is betraying the military? So it is eroding the military in a very powerful way. And that's the goal of this whole thing, is really to erode the strength of the United States from within by increasing terrorism, by increasing kidnap, by increasing, because this is part of the Quran, the exchange program of operatives between the enemy and the Muslim world is part of their tactics, and they do it all the time. It's happened in several cases.
I think Bill Finley has a question for you, Mr. Shoebat. Bill, go right ahead.
Yeah, I am very concerned about what this means for the civilians in the USA now that Mr. Obama has sent the signal that kidnapping works. I am especially concerned about our public schools. I remember the Beslan school massacre in Russia. Mr. Shoebat, what do you think this means for the safety of our public school children?
Well, if you look at the university campuses, the Muslim student associations have chapters in 500 university campuses. We're talking about the major universities and colleges. This is besides the school system, the younger adult. But you have 500 chapters in which you had Anwar al-Awlaki being the spiritual leader in the Muslim Student Association in the Boston area, in which Huma Abedin, the woman who works with Hillary Clinton, was part of the same outfit.
Yes.
In which you have Al-Hassani, who was the leader of the Muslim Student Association, who was copied in the smoking gun email, if you recall that one. Now it came to my head, smoking gun email, if you recall.
Right.
The Ghazi and everything else. So now you begin to see it's at all levels, university campuses, colleges, CIA, FBI, government officials, speechwriter for President Obama like Rashad Hussein and everybody else. You can see that the university campuses are very much in danger, and it's not unlikely to have shootouts at university campus or even terrorism. In fact, one of the Muslim student associations who was recruited was Bilal, whatever, and he's African American, converted to Islam in California, UC Davis.
Yes.
Threw a grenade in Camp Pennsylvania, Kuwait, killing 3 American soldiers. So this is not the first time we see this kind of betrayal. It's in the military. Nidal Malik Hassan is a prime example of this, in which it was never labeled as a terrorist attack, killing 13 Americans, 14, one of them was pregnant. Nidal Malik Hassan got away with being labeled as a terrorist. So, whenever a Muslim terrorist carries out a terrorist attack, we don't want to offend them, and it becomes the whole thing with the FBI. I mean, I used to be speaking at the FBI and all these things. Now those things are gone. Why? Because we're telling the truth, and they don't want that to be, taught in either school, university, Oriental studies of all these supportive of the Islamist movement at the university campuses, brainwashing the next American generation. So it's not just the physical threat, but threat converting a society by the young generation, which the Saudi money, petrodollars, is going into financing everything from major libraries to Oriental studies at university campuses, putting their operatives in the university campuses, and by that, they're victoriously winning. And it's changing the demography of the U.S. as far as our war on terror.
Well, it sounds like we need to send Diane back to college so she can join the Student Muslim Association and become a piece of her mind.
They wouldn't like to come up against me, rest assured of that.
So why not give them a taste of their own medicine? We should send American patriots and Christians right into these universities to join their organizations and stand up and speak the truth boldly.
Well, we speak it now. I think if we went and did it even more, we'd get that same bullseye on our head as people like Walid Shoebat have, people like Pamela Geller have, people like Robert Spencer have. We'd get that target right directly on us, too.
Well, and our guest today on Right Side Patriots is Walid Shoebat. And before we start tying this up, because we do have about 10 minutes left here on the show, sir, but I want to just briefly touch on, you mentioned that you were born in Israel, but you, growing up and as a young adult there, you were actually working with the PLO. And, this is why, I want folks to understand why we reached out and felt so honored to have Mr. Shoebat as a guest today, because I thought if we're going to talk about this and we need to get in depth on this, I need to talk to somebody who was there, and our listeners need to hear from somebody who was there. And Diane and I have talked, previously, we really should try to get Walid Shoebat to be a guest on the show, and we could find no better time to reach out and make you a guest on the show than we could right now. But explain a little bit about your background, sir, so people understand why you are the expert we know you are.
Well, I was a Big Dial Junior when I was a young 16-year-old teenager who wanted to deliver a bomb. Although CNN tried to attack me, it didn't work because no one in the Israeli government denied that I was a terrorist or I was in prison. So there's rumors goes around about me all over the place. But I dare anybody to refute it and show any evidence from the Israeli government that denies who I am. I grew up as a half American, you could say. My mother was an American, my father was Palestinian. And of course, between mom and dad, the father always wins because that society is always a man's society. And so I grew up in the school system and learned jihad just as these guys learned jihad. And I was a mule to deliver explosive charges to blow up Bank Leumi in Bethlehem. In fact, CNN, when they wanted to refute me, how did they find out about me? They trusted my information. They took my name, they went to my village, they met my family just exactly as I said. And of course they failed to look at the records, and 20 years ago, 30 years ago, what was going on in there. They denied it, but nevertheless, there's plenty of evidence that
But now, you everything turned around for you. Explain how that happened. Explain how you went from being jihadi to being who you are today.
Well, you look at the Bergdahls. If we explain what happened to them, they had a Judeo-Christian ethics. They read the Quran. They were convinced with the Quran. They read Islam. They looked at Muhammad. I looked at the other way. I looked at my mother's faith, the Christian faith. And she has challenged me at 16 years old, to refute the Bible. And so looking at chapter Joel in chapter 3, and it talks about judgment, it talks about the land being divided, creation of Palestinian state. And this is pretty amazing to see a document of the Bible declaring that the land will be divided. We see that today. And then I look at Amos chapter 9, verse 15, I will plant them in their land, that is Israel, and no longer shall they be pulled out of the land. It's impossible to uproot them. that can't be a historic reference. I don't believe in amillennialism. And so Israel was established. I saw it as the will of God. I changed my faith as a result of my respect for the Word of God, and I became staunch supporter of Israel, and became Christian. And so that's what happened. I'm considered a traitor to my own kind, just as Bergdahl is considered a traitor to your own kind.
Well, and I know Diane's got another question for you that she wanted to ask, and I so rudely interrupted her before, and I apologize for that. But before she does, and before we get to the end of the show, you have been such a wealth of knowledge on this particular topic, and I know, Mr. Shoebat, that we are only barely scratching the surface of the things that we should be talking about if we're going to get the truth out. Would you be okay to be a guest on our show again at some point? We would love to have you back.
Sure. Yes, no problem. Just schedule it. I'll be there.
We would love that. Diane, go ahead.
That's basically what I was going to ask, because what we'd like to do a show on is the infiltration of Islam into American society, the Muslim Brotherhood, how it's working its way into our schools, into our cultures. We need to know, how do we stop this? We need to know all about the Sharia. People like Craig and I and Bill, we know about the Sharia, but the average American doesn't understand what's going on. We need an expert who can tell them the true dangers of what's happening in our country today.
Right. I mean, the first thing Americans need to do really is get ticked off. Americans are, I've been studying you for a long time.
Well, trust us, you got 3 people right here on the phone with you that are really, really, really ticked off.
Yes.
And Americans are kind of nice folks, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. If you're not nice, then you must be really nasty and bad. And, they're nice people, But once you tick them off, they have something called baseball bat. So I'm waiting for the American baseball bat to arise. That's my solution to all these, airport searches and everything else. Just give every American a baseball bat. If some Muslim with a box cutter raises a box cutter, you can see what 200-300 Americans can do with baseball bats. And so
I got a better idea. Every American needs to be armed.
Oh yes, absolutely. I agree with you. I'm armed to the teeth myself.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm for the GGC. That is God, Gun, and Country.
Yes.
And that's my logo, the GGC. And I love weapons, and there's nothing wrong with carrying arms, bearing arms. It's part of our rights, and it's part of our defense. And
exactly.
The United States is, just the civilians alone, is probably the 5th strongest military in the world when it comes to Americans arming themselves. So, I'm not saying pick up arms and go use them. I'm saying we use them in self-defense, And
exactly.
so, if everybody has carry concealed all over this country, I think we'll solve this problem once and for all in the schools, which the gentleman was asking. Teachers should be armed. Pilots should be armed. There should be at least 10, 20, or a dozen people armed in the store any time of day. So this way, nobody can think, terrorists would think twice about doing anything wrong. And so, arms is a very good thing. And this is basically what the Founding Fathers wanted, an armed America. And they're trying all the time. Obama tried how many times to kind of basically influence First Amendment, Second Amendment. And, he's going against the core of this country. Americans have been snookered. Let's face it. Look.
Yes. And part of it is not just being snookered. Part of it is being greedy and selfish. A lot of Americans, I'm sorry to say, have their hands out. And if you, put something in those hands, whether it's the Obama phones or food stamps or welfare checks or whatever, they will be loyal to you instead of loyal to what's right. And that's part of the problem too. You keep giving us our free stuff, we'll do whatever you want. And that's so wrong.
By the way. That's what the Islamists do. It's exactly what to do to elect the Muslim Brotherhood, giving stuffs to the people. They give water, food, this and that. And that's how they basically, change the elections and so on and so forth. So, you elect me, I'll give you food stamps. And we're using the same Islamic tactics in the United States.
Right, and it's got to stop. People need to wake up in this country, because right now the Muslim population is, I believe it's 2.7%. It's something very small. But the one thing that the Muslims are using, and I know they use this in the Middle East, if they can't win you with war, they're going to overpopulate you. They will breed and breed and breed until they choke, let's say, Israel out of existence, not with a weapon, but with their population. And they're starting to do that in this country too. It's only going to be a short period of time, but before that 2.7 turns into 5% and 10% and 20%. This has got to stop, folks.
They've already got Dearborn, Michigan. So
exactly.
Right. In fact, it was I who first broke the information about Huma Abedin, the assistant to Hillary Clinton. And her father was one of 20 some Muslim scholars who basically etched in stone the Muslim Minority Affairs program by the Saudi government, in which it states very eloquently that through the Muslim Minority Affairs, they're going to erect mosques and they're going to basically destroy the U.S. from within. And who's the obstacle? The Jews, of course. And those very, supported by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we have to understand, we are dealing with Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Those are major enemies of the United States, and we haven't declared that. So
no, not under this president. We haven't. Right.
Well, and when you make a deal,
not even under Reagan or under Bush or under any of them, we have declared Saudi Arabia.
You're right.
Well,
absolutely.
And that's why in the article I called them tenuous allies at best. But when you make a deal with people who support terrorism, you're not making a deal that is good for your own country, it's not good for your own people, and it's not good for the members of your military.
That's correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let me just say, it's been an honor, Mr. Shoebat.
It's just helping the enemy.
It's been a great honor to have you as a guest on the show today, and we're looking forward to having you on again and again. Not only when things like this pop up as a current top of the line news story, but also to get to the truth of things that people need to understand if we're truly going to take this country back.
Yes, of course, it's an ounce of prevention. We need that ounce of prevention. It's really kind of having foresight. We have abandoned foresight in this country. Foresight demands that we look towards the future and on the trends of what's going on, and the trends, and I wish I can get a whole show on the trends of what is going on in the Middle East and Turkey and other countries in Iran.
We'll give it to you. We'll give you that show.
We'll
give you that show on Right Side Patriots. Absolutely.
No doubt about it, Mr. Shoebat. You want to do a show like that? We are your radio station. We will be more than happy to host that show with you.
I'll be delighted. We can go through the whole thing.
Well, folks, we got to wrap it up today. If you missed any part of the show today, we're going to rebroadcast this at midnight Eastern tonight. It'll also be rebroadcast on Saturday afternoon, right after our Right Side Patriots Saturday live show. But Mr. Shoebat, once again, thank you so much for being a guest on Right Side Patriots today. We also want to thank Pastor Manning and our great friend Bill Finley for joining us today. Everybody have a great rest of the week. Keep an eye out tomorrow in Diane's and my blog for the petition to impeach and arrest Barack Hussein Obama. Diane, say goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you,
God
Mr.
bless.
Shoebat.
God bless.
Mr. Shoebat, thank you so much for being on.
I'm just an old black sheep from the family tree. I'm now a vet and a victim of society. Hell, I stood by the gun just to keep us free. Now my own damn country's turned its back on me. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside.
Don't tread on me. You don't tread on me. From the Revolution War to the Middle East, I come back to a country that's lost its peace. And now here I stand on the promised land, free and a slave to Uncle Sam.